Hi everybody, Dr. Chris Hoff here. Time for another kitchen table talk. I think since I'm embracing hot girl summer, I think that I'm going to start doing these from outside during the summer. Just what the heck, and change of scenery for you all. But also today's topic is titled Naming the World. So what do I mean by that? Well, a couple of years ago I wrote an article about the trouble with Instagram therapists, and I recommend you Google that and check it out. But also what I'm noticing is that a lot of well-meaning therapists, I know they're attempting to be helpful, are doing a lot of naming of the world for other people. And what I mean by that, you'll see these posts of different pathologies or diagnoses or whatever, and they are defining how that might look or what that would look for. And I think that's problematic in some ways. And I know it can be helpful, but I think it's problematic. And why do I think it's problematic? I'm going to maybe lean on the work of Paulo Ferrara, who wrote the book Pedagogy of the Oppressed, where he believed that the prevalent ideas of society are always ideas of those groups who hold power. The therapeutic industrial complex, for example, the psychological industrial complex. Ferrara agrees that those in power expect education to reproduce the dominant interests and ideologies. But he believed there's another task which education can accomplish, and this task is of human liberation. So oftentimes some of these things that we're trying to be helpful with are actually just reproducing dominant interests, dominant ideas that oftentimes can be totalizing of identities and quite problematic for a lot of different reasons. So Ferrari's book, The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, actually introduced an approach to education and organizing to transform oppressive structures and create a more equitable, caring, and beautiful world through action and reflection that is co-created with those who have been marginalized or dehumanized in various ways, which oftentimes diagnoses or pathologies and what have you can do, quite honestly. So for Ferrara, education must be centered upon developing critically conscious, humanized learners who act to liberate themselves and the world from injustice. So that's important. So how do we do that, right? How do we begin to name our world? Well, often in narrative practice, we are very interested in naming problems. It's a category of inquiry that we think is very important. You know, we'll ask people that seek our help to name these things that they might be experiencing in their own language. And this is very important. So Michael White, narrative theorist, narrative therapy, thought that this naming, this category of inquiry of naming, created an alternative to experience distant, global, and structural definitions of problems and concerns, which you often will find in a lot of these Instagram posts, right? They're very much experience distant. They can capture a wide range of people. They're just structuralist definitions of problems. But what narrative practice is interested in, or me as a therapist, I'm interested in like more experience near particular, specific, non-structuralist definitions of problems or concerns. And an example of this, I'm going to lean on maybe Winston Churchill, who used to call the depression that he experienced the black dog, for example. And what a great metaphor to work with when you're talking about something like depression, right? But also letting the people you work with name the problems creates this this kind of liberatory effect of rather than these ideas being imposed on them, they are co-creating them with you in the work that you're doing. So anyway, so naming the world, very important, naming our world. So what can you do? How can you think about what you would call things rather than what the larger power structures that we move through might call them or want to keep them going, these kinds of things. So name your own world. So that's, as always, thanks for watching these. Thanks for sitting poolside with me. I just banged this out really quick. Hopefully that was helpful. And thanks for having coffee with me poolside. Peace.